course, back in August. Liverpool are only the second team all season to come here to the Emirates and stop Arsenal winning in the Premier League. Now, they didn't have a shot on target. The first time that's happened for Liverpool in the Premier League for 16 years. However, when you listen to what Dominic Szoboszlai is saying, is it a step forward? Is it proof again, without some big hitters, that they can compete with the league leaders?
It absolutely is. I mean, first half was definitely Arsenal's on points. Liverpool reversed that in the second half. OK, Arsenal had a late flurry, but Liverpool were the better team in the second half. And I said before the game, you know, when you're champions, when you're great players like they've got, and even though they're underperforming a little bit this season, when you're playing against other great players, when you come to a stage like this, you've got something about you that says we're not going to get embarrassed, that we're not going to get beaten by these today. And the performances of the likes of Konate, Van Dijk, etc., was that of champions, I think. Listen, even if you're the best team in the world coming to the Emirates, a draw is always a good. It's hard to go away from home. It's hard to play against a top team, and I don't care whether you're in flying form or if you're struggling for a result. That's a really good performance from Liverpool.
What percentage of that was credit Liverpool, and what percentage maybe was Arsenal not quite firing on all cylinders?
I think you have to credit Liverpool for their second half performance, but I think for the first half performance, I thought we created enough chances and got the ball in the box on occasions where you have to take those opportunities, because that you're not going to get too many more that we saw in the second half. And I think Liverpool in the second half, they realised, you know, let's keep the ball, let's see what we can do, let's hit them on the break. I think Liverpool had the better chances. But again, I think it's another one for Arsenal to learn about at this stage of the season. I'm quite pleased that in the end they managed it to get a point rather than not get anything, because they're still in pole position. You know, that was a tough game in the second half, simply because I think that you have to be more ruthless in the first half about the chances what you're creating to take, because chances, they change games. And if they score them chances, they don't get nervous in the second half, they don't drop off a bit, they don't give Liverpool the time that they had, they would go for them a little bit more. And I think that that's what happened. You have to take those chances, what you create in the first half, to finish teams off. You've got to be ruthless. And if you don't, the club like Liverpool and a team like Liverpool, they'll bite you.
And in terms of chances, was that just what was missing from Liverpool today? You heard Dominic Szoboszlai say he had a few shots there. They didn't have, like I say, one on target in the whole game. It's just that final ball, that lacking that little bit of quality at times.
It was, and it's understandable when you look at, you know, the types of player that are missing. You know, the Mo Salahs, the Isaks, the FTKs. You know, a couple of players, Frimpong, for example, getting in really good positions and just not having that end product. A couple of easy balls, actually. But as we were saying, the closer to the goal you get, the harder it gets, and that, you know, that's where you start having to, you know, make the difference. Let's say lots of players can do frilly skills outside the box and around the halfway line, but as soon as the final ball, the final finish, that's the most important thing in football. Liverpool just lacked that a little bit, but as I say, a fair excuse when you've got all those players that are missing. But overall, I think Arne Slot will be pleased with the performance.
Just on your point about the contrasting halves, right? You have a look at the numbers from the first half.
I've come back to that point, actually, Roy. They did have a little...
Noni Madueke a little bit earlier to get a little bit more pace, a little bit more buzz, a little bit more zip into the game. I thought that came, and we saw a little bit with Noni Madueke, but by then, I think that the second half, what we showed was a team that is trying to finish it, and you could feel nerves. I think there was a little bit of nerves. I thought that there was a little bit of like, let's just be careful here. Let's not lose this now. And I think that what we've got to have there, I think the attitude we've got to have is we've got to be, we're going to win this. And then if we don't win it, OK, we'll take that. But we can't be safe. I thought we felt a little bit safe and nervous there.
Do you think Liverpool sensed that in the stadium as longer that second half went on?
A little bit, and they grew in confidence as well. As soon as you start knocking a few balls around, then you start growing into it and thinking, hang on a minute, we can get something here. I think from Arsenal's point of view, they're a very efficient side. They're not going to blow anybody away. They're not like a Manchester City that can beat somebody 5 or 6-0, or a Liverpool, you know, when they were absolutely flying a year or two ago. I think Arsenal are based on a really good goalkeeper, really good defence, efficient midfield. You know, I think it's a very, very solid team that are going to win games 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 maybe. But they don't blast you away with dozens and dozens of chances. But but they look so, I mean, it's very, very difficult to beat them. You know, they're so good at the back. They're so solid. They're so well drilled. It's hard to create chances against Arsenal. I think you saw an efficient display from Arsenal, and if they could have nicked a goal, they could have nicked a goal in the last few seconds. I'm sure we'll go on to see that set piece, and that wouldn't have been typical. That would have been unfair to Arsenal to say that. But that's what they're a very efficient team. You never feel as if they're flustered or under pressure. Whereas obviously, you know, the teams that have won the league over the recent years have been, you know, very good attacking team. They might concede. Liverpool concede a lot of goals, even when they're winning leagues and whatever, but they were just a real expansive team, where I think Arsenal are a bit more efficient, and it was important for them not to lose today.
You know, I would say, though, Mike, with those teams that you mentioned, they've got a striker that can, in those moments, Mick, you know what it's like when the game's tight. You can see you're not going to get many chances like you saw against a Liverpool, and you do need. That's what we thought we bought. And that's what you need, because if we're going to talk about the balls that went across the goal all the way through, when you're paying that kind of money, you want something, they've got to be there. And that's what makes the difference in games like this, because the first half, we created enough for us to get something. It didn't happen because we didn't have someone to take the chance. And we done that and then the second half, you get more and more nervous because of everything what's encapsulating with what Arsenal are trying to do. It's all... You know, everybody's worried about it, and you can feel it. You can feel them getting like deeper and deeper. And we can't do that. We've got to go for it. We've got to make sure we take these chances and finish games off a little bit more comfortably than we are at the minute.
As Michael says, though, when you go to the final stages of the game, the final set.
Welcome pitch line, but I know Manny's not going to do exactly what he just did, which I said, give me your reaction, and he screamed. Why?
Because this game is starting to get on my nerves, and I'm starting to get frustrated, you know. Why? Because I think we started very well the game. I think we get possession of the ball. We put Liverpool under pressure from the start of the game. And step by step, I think we became less and less dangerous. And Liverpool became more confident and created probably the most dangerous chances.
Is it this table tennis football you talk about? Again, you want to see more dynamism and handbrake off from Arteta?
Well, I said before the game that big clubs, big players never die. And you can see tonight Liverpool, you know, playing with composure, you know, and confidence, and I think they're defending very well. And this is probably the main problem, you know, for Arsenal. Actually, they don't find the right tempo, the right passes, you know, in between defenders, in between space, you know, to create great chances. I think there is always a Liverpool defenders, you know, to take away the ball.
And one little bit of insight on the 30th minute when Kirkes gave away that free kick, Arne Slot turned around to him and said, you've got to show more composure, stand off him a bit. He stood off him so much, he's actually given Saka openings. That's a chance now down the left.
I think Saka, he took advantage a couple of times, you know, on Kirkes. And, but, you know, every time they crossed the ball, there was always, you know, defenders, you know, taking away the ball. And I think they are always well positioned, you know, in a penalty area. I think the communication between the defenders is very well, you know, at Liverpool. At the moment, we need to find, you know, the right passes, you know, the right movement, you know, to create danger.
Perez, he hasn't scored in 10 games from open play for Arsenal. Why, in your opinion, is that?
Well, a combination. I think, you know, they're not really playing to his strengths, and you realize that Arsenal has got obviously goals coming from the wide areas, and they got many players who can contribute, like, you know, obviously people like Rice has contributed, so they're not really playing to their number 9. But having said that, you know, it's a bit of concern where your number 1 striker has not scored in 10 games, and that's a little bit of a concern. And even tonight, you look at his contribution to this point, he's probably hardly touched the ball, and he doesn't look like he's going to score.
Yeah. I mean, who's at fault? Because you look what City, they bought Erling Haaland, they spent all that money, and they had to change the way they play to cater to their striker. But Arteta's not doing that, is he? He's still relying on his wingers to create the opportunities in front of goal.
Yeah, I mean, what Dwight says, I mean, you know, when you come up against Arsenal, usually the teams want to sit back, so it takes a very intelligent striker to understand how to try and play with very narrow spaces. the change with what City now has with Haaland. He understands he might not touch the ball a lot, but he will be ready for any ball that comes in the box. I think that's the main difference, and you know, maybe for the future, if Arsenal wants to dominate more attacking, yeah, it needs a specific striker who can understand to play those type of games.
He just looks a little bit off, and often enough when you're looking at your star player, particularly in that role, which is obviously a quite complex role to play, you got to have that intelligence as Babel to make those little diagonal rolls. I'm not seeing a burst from him. It's all up, back, and just very simple. You're not seeing his bursting, and all good number 9s. The reason they scored that many goals because they run towards the opposition goal. You're not seeing that with him. He's keep coming to the ball, and he has to just be very calm, but play the position and ask players to thread that. You must be always playing on the shoulder of centre back, and he's now coming towards his own goal, and that's a bit of a concern.
It's going to be interesting because